I call to order the July 28th, 2014 regular meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request everyone to please turn off their cell phones and other electronic devices as well. We apologize for the tardiness of us starting, but I assure you we were in executive session and had to take care of some matters there. But again, we apologize for any inconvenience that caused you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Old social studies teacher that I am, let's do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Witt, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates.
Here.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby. Mrs. Hoffman. Here. Mr. Coons.
Here.
Mr. Manera. Mr. Nelms.
Here.
President Bolton.
Here, thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special public meeting of July 9th, 2014, special meeting July 9th, 2014, special meeting July 14th, 2014, and regular meeting July 14th, 2014.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, sir. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved as presented. Mr. Coons, as chair of the Student Achievement Committee, would you please present the July 14th Student Achievement Committee meeting report?
I present the minutes as written. There is one thing I want to address. We have a change in strategy on the final issue, the schools, programs, key learning community. We're actually going to get an update from Board Member Hoffman at the August 11th Student Achievement Committee meeting instead of just waiting until September 8th. So not a change to the minutes, but a change in plan. And otherwise, I submit them as written.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bates, as chair of the Finance Committee, do you have any minutes to present?
Yes, and we have one for board approval. During the Finance Committee meeting, our internal auditor presented her work plan, and there was a request, or not a request, a plan to examine the processes around some of our, or many of our protocols. And one of the highest risk processes was the teacher evaluation system. I think it ranked 4th or 5th. And that process will be examined by our internal auditor. So the Finance Committee is making the recommendation to the board for approval that process come under the jurisdiction of finance instead of student achievement, so that the process can be examined. Student achievement certainly can look at the results and the data around that as much as you like, but as far as process, keeping all the audits in one committee may be the expedient way to do that. So this committee is making that recommendation and asking the board to approve that.
So if we vote aye on this or accept this, that would include the decision of the board that at least for this time period, that shifts over to finance.
Right.
Okay. And then Mrs. Bates is acting chair of the Policy Committee meeting, July 29th.
And we voted on everything already, so I present that as written.
Thanks. Then we need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I thought you were going to say something. Okay. Any opposed? No. Okay. They are accepted. We have, and I think technically I'm supposed to ask for the board to allow me to change the order, but since we were late in starting, I hope the board won't matter and be upset if I say let's do the hearing of the public now and then do the presentation and our discussion, so members of our public don't have to wait any longer, even though I know they're all anxious to hear the CFT summer report and what have you, but if that's okay, the chair will take that privilege if that meets the approval of the board. Thank you. So we're now at the part, at least tonight, of hearing the public. And each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, and Mrs. Witt will be our timekeeper. When the buzzer goes off, your 3 minutes are up. You can kind of look pleadingly to me, and then we'll say, okay, a few more minutes or whatever. Please refrain from any personnel items. And tonight we have at least, I think, 2 speakers. One is David Gaston to speak about the 3rd grade reading test. And also we're pleased to have Katie Hoffman here to talk about the straight A grant. Or do you want that to be part of the CFT? All right, then we have 1 speaker. Mr. Gaston, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for allowing me to talk. Just briefly, my name is David Gaston. Those of you that may listen to AM 1230 talk radio show, people know me as Dave from Forest Park. I am a math scholar. I have tutored at Harmony School when it was in existence. This is where I met Miss Bates about 15 years ago, I guess it's been. We worked on a project together, and we accomplished a goal. Since then, I've worked and tutored at Winton Woods Middle School, and currently I tutor at an inner city school downtown. I understand there was 14,000 third graders that could not pass the reading test. And I think I have a solution to that problem. I remember when I went to school, every week, I believe we had about 10 spelling words to learn.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the end of the week, you were tested on that.
Yeah.
And that system seemed to work pretty good because I can read, and everybody here I'm pretty sure can read. And I feel that some of the changes in the curriculums in the school system I disagree with, and that's one of them right there. And I believe if we incorporate the spelling words back into the curriculum, give you an example. You take 10 words, for instance, okay? If a child knows those 10 words and you put them together to make a sentence, that child can read that sentence. They can read. And I think doing that will solve the problem with our students that, can't read. Now, I'm only speaking of not the special ed kids or a child that's have a learning disability, because I'm not qualified to, I don't feel that I'm qualified to address that field, nor qualified to tutor a child. I'm talking about just your everyday average student. I think reading is very easy if you give them a spelling test every day. The same way with the multiplication tables. They don't teach that in schools anymore. And when I was at Harmony, we had juniors that could not even tell you what 7 times 9 was, only because they took it out of the school system, and now they're trying to take out cursive writing. So then if you take that out of the school system, how are you going to sign your checks? I mean, how can you sign a signature? You can't do it. So I feel that going back to the old system, especially with the spelling words, introduce that back into the curriculum, give a child so many words every week to learn, and then you solve your reading problem.
Thank you for your comments. I do want to just, the 14,000 must be, is that statewide?
That is statewide. At Cincinnati Public, we have 3,000 students, and thank you for all your work tutoring. And 97% of them have passed the 3rd grade guarantee. So we're looking at about 60 youngsters who we believe will be retained. There was a test given in July. The results won't come back until the start of school, but we anticipate some more youngsters may pass. So we got almost all of our 3,000 to pass the 3rd grade guarantee. In fact, I know we were the highest of the urbans out there, and I think we're right on par with a lot of our suburban districts too at that percentage. But thank you for all your years of tutoring. It really makes a difference.
May I have 10 more seconds, please?
Sure.
Okay. Now, when I'm not tutoring math to the upper people in class, I also work with the 1st graders at the inner city school.
Cool.
And my experience, most of them can read, and they understand what they're reading. Most of them. Just very few that can't. But once again, like I said, if you introduce the spelling words back into the curriculum every week, and most of the words that we use, they're repetitious anyway. And a child knows the words from seeing it, they can read. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we still teach cursive also. I just want you to know.
You want to say that again, just so the public knows?
We have not eliminated
questions about cursive. Virtually anything.
I think it was because the state said we didn't have to do it, but all of our teachers out there are teaching cursive. It's just the right thing to do.
I do believe we're doing the multiplication tables and stuff.
And also the multiplication tables.
And that may be why we've all done so well with the third grade reading. Maybe we haven't lost some of those traditional things that are successful. Appreciate your comments, and then that's our last person from the public to speak. So we'll go on to new business, and we'll start with the presentation. Tonight's presentation will be Cincinnati Federation of Teachers, CFT's summer report. It's presented by President Julie Sellers of CFT. I think she's going to be joined as well by Katie Hoffman and perhaps others. And I know that she has a video as part of the report as well. So come on down and share what y'all have been doing this summer.
She's technically ready.
She's ready. We're not surprised.
It was a nice summer, though.
Yeah, you look radiant.
I do look ready. I am ready for a new year. Okay. Come on over, Katie. I am going to show you a short video that is an overview of the AFT convention. I think there were a lot of main talking points I think you may be interested in, but I do want to do a little introduction. Good evening, and many thanks to the board for allowing me to review CFT's focus this summer. First, I would like to share a short video of the AFT's convention earlier this month in Los Angeles. We debated and voted on over 90 resolutions to drive our national platform, and they're going to begin that video now.
We're not going to follow your No Child Left Behind and test every kid from second, third, and fourth. No, we're going to get it right.
We started to change the conversation about public education. People are actually apologizing to us, recognizing the vital role of teachers, recognizing that public services are essential, honoring healthcare workers for their compassionate care. Throughout history, we raised our voices and fought for fair wages and decent conditions for every worker in America.
Every time we fail to educate a child on the front end of life, it costs us on the backside of life. We make America this promise. We will organize together. We will talk together. When we all get together, what a day! What a day! What a day! The civil rights movement, unfortunately, is not over.
In Chicago, parents, teachers, students came together to stop the cuts in music, art, library, science. Is this the best that they can do for our children?
Nothing has inspired our students more than when they see the same teachers stand in front of them in the classroom, standing next to them in the streets, fighting for the school that they all deserve.
Parents, community, and teacher partnerships is concrete. It's time to take back our schools. The moment has arrived.
A union of more than 1.6 million members!
The boys trying to separate us. What you've done is you've created a bigger and better union.
NFN and its 34,000 registered nurses have joined us and today our union is better and stronger for it.
In our darkest hour, the AFT found a way to make investments in our infrastructure to put the construction professionals back to work. And that's why I'm here to say thank you.
Sisters and brothers, the attack on the postal system is very much like the attack on public education.
We need to stay out of staple stores. When the AFT members do that, that's when they're going to come to the table and stop privatization.
And where school districts are forward down on the job, Jeremiah Lesson is trying to fill a little bit of that void.
Because as a teacher, you're locked in your own classroom. And I was so proud to see that our members responded and started uploading lessons.
Together, a partnership was placed for the 2 million brand new books in the hands of children. Election time. It's the difference between Jared Brown and Scott Walker.
He's one of the most vulnerable incumbents in the country right now.
Partnering with our teachers to bring real innovation and progress to our schools, we need to get back to that sense of shared responsibility. I can't do this election without your support.
I'm here today to announce the formation of Democrats for Public Education. This is market-driven education reform that rests on the fallacy that the only solution is to let the market pick winners and losers. We're with you, we're standing with you, and we will stand by you.
The implementation of the Common Core in New York State was absolutely an embarrassment.
You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Our union should not collaborate with the same people who want to destroy public education.
They took our stations away from us. We're going to take them back from them because that is our tool. We are the teachers.
I thank the delegates for the passion about this debate.
Patients die when nurses are overwhelmed with more than they can handle. Invest in public services in order to reclaim their promise as a tool for building a more just, fair, and prosperous society.
Whereas Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan has aligned with those who have undermined public education. Resolved that the AFT calls on the President to implement a Secretary Improvement Plan, which will be based upon standing up for public education.
We are supposed to be these fierce competitors. We're supposed to fight.
Let's surprise people. Let's do what we're not supposed to do.
Let us join hands and lead this fight. Lead out of this insanity of toxic testing. Let us lead towards the whole child, because we are family. Carter, coming to Los Angeles, it was great to be at the People's Community Center on Thursday, where you gave out thousands of books.
Parents say they don't know what books to get for their kids, or they don't have enough money to get the books, so them coming and providing books for our kids is a very great opportunity.
Lots of books and food, and outside we've got a community health clinic, science experiments, just really showing them what we do as unions and helping other communities.
We're making a healthy food launch to talk to the kids about food pyramid, what healthy it is.
There's a food pantry. We want to get back to lift up our communities, to lift up children and their families.
There's really no words that can capture the life and the activism of someone who has spent their adult life working on behalf of others.
And in efforts, we mobilize our community, and the promise we speak of is just within our reach.
I am energized by this convention and a mandate you've given our leaders to work tirelessly to reclaim the promise of America and restore the gains that have been rolled back.
Let's march together, let's fight together, let's work together, and when we come together, we will win. God bless the members of the AFT, and we are adjourned.
Thank you. So you can see that with the excitement and the debate of the convention, many of the things that people are driving across the country, we have been doing here in Cincinnati. The delegates resolved to continue to support the promise of the Common Core State Standard, provided that a set of essential conditions, structures, and resources are in place, and to support locals to hold policymakers and administrators accountable for the proper implementation of the Common Core standards. AFT will also be working with legislators nationally to ensure that a moratorium on high-stakes consequences of Common Core and the aligned assessments for students, teachers, and schools is extended until such a time as all the essential elements of a comprehensive, equitable, standards-based system, including the technical infrastructure, are in place at each district. And they resolved to work to limit the amount of standardized testing for students with disabilities and to publicize concerns with the excessive testing for that population. And they will be working federally with the IDEAB. There were also many resolutions that will directly impact us in this area. One was to work to end human trafficking, which is probably #1 in the state of Ohio. And we will be training teachers and counselors and psychologists to identify what those signs are to limit that. They voted to support restorative justice programs in the schools, which we hope through what we negotiated at A to E, A to S, will have some of those practices included so that we can end children there so that they can be more successful in life. And they also want to mitigate inequality in American schools. Those were just a few of the resolutions. CFT will officially align and adopt many of the resolutions that were adopted at this year's convention through our committees. And as we do so, we will present these resolutions to the board as necessary, with the hopes that the resolutions will also be supported by the board and the district. On another note, I would like to say Melissa Cropper, president of the OFT, Fran Lawrence, who is the past executive vice president of AFT, and I also spoke from the floor about the successes of the Community Learning Center's model in Cincinnati. Michael Mulgrew, who is the president of the UFT in New York City, also gave glowing remarks about the schools in Cincinnati Public Schools. And he announced that New York City now has 25 schools based on the model of Cincinnati's community learning centers. And their schools are all begging to have more. And I was like kind of jealous because I thought pretty soon they'll have more than we do. And
not by percentage.
Yeah, but not on percentage. Also, as you may have heard, CFT has received a second-year extension on our AFT Innovation Grant to help our pilot schools, which are Cheviot, Covedale, Dater Montessori, Midway, and Sailor Park, with the implementation of the Common Core state standards by taking a deep dive into the instructional practice guides with our continued support with student achievement partners. Even though we had somewhat of a slow start at the beginning of last year, we were moving at massive speeds by the end of the school year, and teachers cannot wait to get started again this August. We also have developed a cluster of teachers taking on many leadership roles in these pilot schools, which includes presenting professional development to their staffs. And we would like to give you at some time in the future a formal presentation about the details of the grants and what has occurred up until this point. That has not, I don't think we've really done a formal presentation about what is really going on in the schools. AFT is coming here on August the 12th, and they are going to give a full day of presentation skills for teacher leaders, and that is being put on through Mayerson Academy, and all of the teachers in those pilot schools will be participating in that professional development. And I would also like to report that Leadership Scholars of Cincinnati is expanding their program to 4 more schools in Cincinnati. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I have been on the board for the past few months with Cincinnati, with Leadership Scholars. Dr. Pat White and Dr. Susie White have met with Bill Miles and the principals in some targeted schools to begin their program this fall, and I know they're all very excited about it. And this is a great opportunity for these schools and for their students. And finally, I would like to state that CFT will be fully involved with the levy campaign. We have been working on that this summer, and our executive council has voted to approve hiring a part-time person to help with this work. We know that the district is unable to do some of the things, and it will not be a teacher who will be performing those duties, but we will have an outside person so that we can make sure that we fully understand and implement the Coast Agreement. And I am looking forward to a great start in a productive 2014-15 school year. And I would like to turn it over to Katie to give you the update on the Ohio Arts Assessment Collaborative, because she has really exciting news I think you'll all be happy with. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie, and stay there so if we have any questions or anything
Okay. I do
after Katie's done.
Okay, and I do want to say Bill de Blasio, when he was running for mayor, he was here in Cincinnati when they would bring in their different groups of people. He came in a couple of times, and he ran his platform in New York City based on the model here in Cincinnati. So he was very energetic while he was there in support of the community involvement. And Katie.
So I'm here to speak about the Ohio Arts Assessment Collaborative. Now, you probably haven't heard about that before because we just formed it this spring, and it was a collaborative that was kind of many years in coming. But through this collaborative that we formed, we were able to receive one of the Straight A Fund grants for $5 million. So that's through the work of the Office of Innovation.
Can you repeat that again for us?
We received a Straight A Fund grant of $5 million. We are the lead urban. There is a suburban in Columbus, Hamilton City, and a rural in the far eastern part of Ohio, West Muskegon. And we'll all be working together on this partnership. The collaborative actually is started with the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education. We have worked side by side with them. Even Cincinnati has created their Greater Cincinnati Alliance for Arts Education. Our arts teachers have worked with Donna Collins in the Ohio Alliance for the Arts, and that's where we started our SLO work several years ago. Through our TIF grant, we started working with Battelle for Kids. And with TIF, our very first year, we started an arts design committee to kind of look at what 50% growth measures were going to look like for students, because the TIF districts in Ohio were the very first ones that were expected to implement the Ohio teacher evaluation system with 50% student growth and achievement. So during that year, we had 2 teachers from Muskegon, their only music teacher and their only art teacher, so that's how they wound up there. And then we decided that in order to get really good input through this committee, input from the rest of the state as to where we really wanted to go in the state of Ohio, through Donna Collins and the Ohio Arts Council, we did a yell out to all the OMAA, all the Ohio Arts Education, Drama, and Dance folks, and we had a forum up in Columbus. And through that, this is where all this collaborative got going. Probably this past year, our work with Battelle for Kids and the TIF with assessment literacy also helped us get this grant, because Battelle came up with a full program, or a full one-day PD on assessment literacy, but we also had another assessment literacy based on performance-based assessments going on throughout our schools. So we all came together, and I will tell you the intellectual material was written by Kara Shibia, Mary Auer, myself, and Lauren Hess, who is the arts integration person that was hired through the HUD grant. Lauren is actually one of the former presidents of the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education, so that was a great thing for us, for her to be hired. Another thing that we are adding to this partnership is Ohio State University and University of Cincinnati. Because whenever you create assessments, you have to make sure that they are valid assessments, that you're actually you're assessing what it is that you were teaching. Also, we want to make sure that there's reliability in these assessments, so that a teacher in West Muskegon and a teacher in Cincinnati at grade 3 that would be giving an assessment, there would be reliable results every single time this assessment is given. So that's why we are going to make sure there's innovative reliability with UC and OSU. Our very first meeting to pull everybody together is on August 7th up in Columbus, and we will be having the application process for all the writers of the lessons and the assessments, and then they will be receiving professional development and working throughout the year on developing all of those assessments. We will then have at least 35 classrooms in which these assessments will be piloted, and we're very excited about this. We're hoping that these will have the kind of cognitive rigor that we definitely need. I do want to give you a little footnote. When we had that TIFF arts design team, one thing that happened during that was that the ODE person released the new supposed Ohio Fine Arts standards. And once we really looked at them, they were just a cut and paste from what they had before. Very low cognitive rigor, very low Bloom's taxonomy, depth of knowledge at probably the bottom. We had to fight, yell, and scream to get the word create into visual art. And so we pushed back. We pushed back big time. And so we started really working with the folks on the national assessments, and happy to say that the folks that created the new national standards worked side by side with the College Board and all the folks that did the Common Core. So these are aligned, nice, good cognitive rigor, and did that through the artistic processes of create, produce, perform, and respond, and that's where the whole literacy piece gets put into that. So we're very excited, and I will probably come back to the Student Achievement Committee several months from now to make sure that Cincinnati goes forward with the national standards, because this is where we want our kids to be. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both. Questions or comments from board members regarding the presentations?
I had one. What was the convention held? Looked like y'all was.
It was
having
in
some
Los
fun.
Angeles this
Okay,
year.
okay.
Every year they have it in a different location.
So who all from Cincinnati attended? You and
It
Katie
was
and-
Katie, myself, Lee Black, Jane Simon, and
Angel Green.
Angel Green.
Okay.
Good.
So because they also have a PSRP
3 to 5
section.
days. 3
So-
days.
What was that?
3 days.
4 days.
4 days.
So now we know you're fired up and ready to go.
Hollywood swinging.
We can tell from the video. Those grants are great. What would you, are you expanding what you're trying to do with one of your grants to more schools, or?
We will be taking it to a deeper level. The teachers have a great understanding, and now they will be doing more internally within the district. And there's a possibility we could expand it, that the coaches could take that on and start doing some of using that evidence guide at the other schools. But so far, it's been very successful. They have to go through the whole process before they really see the importance of it, which takes several months to complete the process. But once they really have an understanding, then it all clicks for them about the importance of the Common Core.
Thank you. Other questions
Any
or
other
comments?
Good
Glad you're
presentation.
back and raring to go.
And now I'm back to work.
Thank you.
Get a girl on the plane.
We can all relate to that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have on our agenda, we have a kind of a more formalized discussion planned. We've had any number of discussions. Do kudos?
Yeah.
I was going to go
Okay,
do
you can.
this.
You can.
Can I get that? And then we'll do the kudos to do the other?
Oh, okay. No
Is that
problem.
okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. The formal discussion that we were having, we've had it sort of informally at board meetings regarding the issue of alcohol waivers. And I know that policy, upon advice of the board and request of the board, policy committee is going to be taking that up to deal with, to try to figure this out. And I think Member Hoffman particularly has said that we needed to have some full board discussion and participation, and just wanted to know if at this time, if there's things that the full board would like to state or be aware of to share with policy, or would rather give it to policy and have policy develop what they would like to do. I don't know if the chairman of the policy committee would like us to do some
Well, first of all,
discussion.
let me have a drink. But-
Okay. Me too. Nothing in it but water.
Secondly, I know we've been given this charge. We haven't had any discussion with the policy committee members, but I don't drink personally, and I know we're not living in a period of prohibition anymore. And so there's a lot of things we're going to have to consider: what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's legal, what's not legal. But mainly that we don't necessarily set a precedent, and again that we, when these things come before us for a request, that we consider them on a case-by-case basis and on the merits of that particular request. And right now, I think that's where we are. But I think to Board Member Hoffman's point, we're going to have to come up with some template that will walk us through the individual requests as they come forward, because we don't want to open up Pandora box either. But we also want to be respectful of the times we're living in and respect those that do want to get their drink on. So.
Yeah. When I think too, I think that what we were more concerned about was that we don't really have any parameters right now. Right. And so I think I had brought this up as a concern that if we're just using precedent, then a precedent was we approve all of these. And I think there were some that were coming in front of us that we were not entirely comfortable with, but we didn't have any more specific policy other than that. I think there are definitely reasons why having events that do serve alcohol in our buildings are important to some of us. I think, things like we get people into our buildings who never would be inside a CPS building for any other reason. They get to see how amazing our facilities are. They get that could trigger them considering having their own children in our district. It also gets people to see just how amazing this FMP was. I think Melanie is probably our biggest spokesperson around about just how impressive the FMP was. But when we can get more people in there to just see that we are good stewards of the funds, this project was immense. It was done on time, on budget, and with incredible results. I think there are other pluses, like when the levy passed, we said that these buildings are going to be more than just your typical school. They were going to be used for all kinds of purposes in our community. And we've seen that, these buildings have been used for everything, some of the waivers that have been asked for everything from opera performances to weddings between our alumni. So it's pretty cool, the things that have happened in there. But I think there should be more discussion though around what are those parameters? Should there be something around the duration of sales? How long? I mean, one of the ones we approved, it was going on all day. And I think that was making us feel really nervous, having alcohol sales for a long period of time. So considering things like duration of sales, if minors are going to be present or not, who has access to it? Mm-hmm. Is it happening both inside and outside of the building? How many, quote, bars are there going to be? So how many access points to the alcohol? I just think there are a number of questions like that are weighing on my mind that I think would be smart for us to write into policy so that we do have some more parameters in place when we are allowing alcohol in our buildings.
Other comments? Mr. Coons?
Yeah, I want to follow up. I think it is good that we are discussing this in policy committee. Not sure if I'll be there for when we do discuss it, so I want to let my thoughts be known. I do think that having alcohol at events at our school does encourage more attendees than we may get otherwise for, one reason or another. And some of the reasons that you highlighted, Lisa, were great. It allows us to show off these great buildings we have. They're more than just places to be educated. They are community centers. And when community gatherings happen, whether it's a fundraiser for a certain nonprofit, there's oftentimes alcohol present because it helps draw people. One other thing is that when alcohol sales are available at these events, it's potential to make some revenue. We're always strapped for funds, and I don't want to turn all our schools into bars and restaurants necessarily, but when the opportunity is there for a class reunion at a school and they want to be able to serve alcohol and possibly sell it to their alumni and they can make some money for the school or for the district off of that, I don't think we should be turning away those opportunities. So that's kind of my 2 cents. And again, I wish the policy committee all the luck for this somewhat tenuous issue.
Other questions or comments?
I do have one.
Please.
Yeah, I would really encourage the policy committee to take their time and walk through how we set some parameters. I think gone are the days where we can just follow precedent. I think that gets us into trouble. So I would really encourage and like to see specific parameters that need to be followed when folks are requesting alcohol waivers. And as an advocate for our students and our children, always, I would want to make sure that, that the alcohol use is appropriate, that minors are not involved, and that we're not demonstrating to minors, let's just go out and drink, and you have to drink to have a good time, On the flip side of that, I see great opportunity for revenue. And also for showcasing our schools as well. So I would really, really advocate for the parameters when there are alcohol waivers, including a timeline, because I think the last one that came before us was on a short time notice, and we didn't have an opportunity to really flush it out. Whereas another request, there was demanded an extra long timeline. So, standardization and very strict parameters would be my suggestion.
I'm sure there's somewhere in this great nation of ours where there's other school districts that are probably undertaking this. And so it would behoove all of us to maybe look at some best practices, do some research to see what we can use to build that framework that we need moving forward. I was going to say also, because this is sensitive, complicated, and comprehensive, that I don't know if we have the luxury of rushing through this. Although it's important. So I would like to just caution us to just make sure that we do a thorough research and discussion and maybe policy framework as we can.
Yeah, I would agree with you related to not rushing through the process. I think if something came before us, we're full well able to make a decision in the interim while the committee is really working through a policy. But I would also encourage maybe a couple check-ins with the large group as policy is working on putting something together. Maybe let's check in so that we don't get to an end and have a lot of revisions or that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Could we make that, because Vice President Nelms, that's a very good idea, and make it an assignment, and especially with our new board docs, it should be searchable. So making it an assignment for someone in our admin to search for other school districts' policies.
We'll make that assignment when we get to.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? I think you touched on most of the parameters. I do think the case by case makes sense as long as there are parameters by which to measure the wisdom of this. And my greatest interest in it particularly is whether or not minors are going to be present, especially our minors. I worry about anything that's affiliated with us, where there will be students. That's one of my parameters, but I think you all have touched on many of them, and I'm off to the policy committee.
We got it.
We're good. Thank you. Now we can do kudos.
All right. There's two kudos. There's a formal kudo, and then I have a kind of off the track kudo, but I'll let.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Board Member Coons.
Our formal kudo, which some people might be aware of, Inquirer reports that to win ultramarathon, SCPA teacher digs into spirit. 10 years ago this month, Harvey Lewis was in a car accident that left him with a broken neck. On Tuesday, Lewis won the 2014 Badwater 135 ultramarathon in the best shape of his life. The 38-year-old Walnut Hills, Sursa resident, the neighborhood, whoops, beat 98 other runners in the 135-mile race. Lewis would ultimately win with a time of 23 hours, 52 minutes, and 55 seconds, only stopping for hydration and food. It was his fourth time competing in the invitation-only race that drew runners from 25 countries. Lewis teaches social studies, economics, government, and psychology at the School for Creative and Performing Arts in downtown Cincinnati.
All right.
We are all very proud of this accomplishment, yes.
My other kudos would go off and pretty much cover and highlight the crossing guards that we have in this very district. We're constantly talking about children's safety, constantly. And serving on the board for about 7 years, I've never seen a crossing guard that has done a presentation or a crossing guard presentation that we could maybe field some questions or ask how things are going, how we can support it. We always talk about the funding of this piece, and Mary, I'm going to ask you a question at the end of my comments, but I would like to give kudos to those that, just like the postman, brave the weather and the storms and go above and beyond the call of duty, putting themselves in harm's way quite often. And I think we need to give some credence and spotlight to that group some way, somehow in the near future. And Mary, my question would be, are we still incurring the entire cost for crossing guards?
Yes, what the crossing guards, they do a great job. They work for the city of Cincinnati, and they bill us around $700,000 a year to actually pay the crossing guards. So yes.
Yeah, now the question is, do I know a crossing guard? Do I know a crossing guard? My dear mother is a crossing guard, and she's a blessed 79. Oh, and she works at the Clifton. What's the school? Fairview. And then I have a sister that's a crossing guard. So it's in the family. So back in my heydays when I was a pup at Sands Elementary, I was a crossing guard. So it runs in the family. Okay. So but kudos to the crossing guard.
They do a fabulous job for us.
They certainly do. Yeah, kudos. Mrs. Hoffman.
Okay, I have one other kudos. I recently had a colleague reach out to me and forward me an email from an educator in Nepal who is coming to the States to do some research on effective education practices and wanted to know, this educator from Nepal is coming to Cincinnati because he had heard about our community learning centers and wanted to know more information. So I wanted to make sure everybody who works with our community learning centers knows they're not just impacting our own children here, but literally on the other side of the world, they have heard about the amazing work that you all are doing.
That's great.
Do you know the name of this individual from Nepal?
I can get it to you.
Could you get it to me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have a number of people you know in Nepal?
He does.
All right.
Timbuktu and just about everywhere.
That's good. That's good.
Excellent. Okay. I think that we have retirements tonight.
Yes, I want to acknowledge several of our employees who are retiring. We have Millie F. Thompson and Linda Williams, who are both teachers, and Karen Cost, Karen Kesey, Virginia McDonald, and Linda Pointer, who were civil service personnel. And I want, on behalf of the board, to congratulate these individuals for their service and thank them and wish them well.
Thank you. I think we're at the point now where we are going to be voting on resolutions, and I believe Mrs. Copeland-Dansby, would you please present your resolution for board consideration?
Sure. I have a resolution approving Second Amendment to contract for sale of real estate to the following property, 940 Poplar Street, Cincinnati 45214, and I present it as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No, I would like to ask Cynthia to just tell the public what this resolution refers to. We passed a resolution related to the same property some time ago, but there have been a couple changes. And I just want to make sure that the changes are on the record.
The developer came back to us and advised us that they are applying for some additional funding. That application is due very shortly. It will then take a number of months again for that to go through the process. So they are very committed to this building. That is the reason they are now going to pay for 50% of the carrying cost, and also will make arrangements to either maintain a plaque that it is in the foyer of the building, or will put something in that's consistent with the new design of the building. But they're very committed to going forward.
Very well. Thank you for that information.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman? Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Bolton?
Aye. Superintendent Ronan, do you have a report?
Yes, I have a report and actually a video, and I'd like to invite Jessica Shelley, who runs our food service and those great breakfast and lunch for our youngsters, to come down. Our district is actually featured in a healthy eating video that has just been put together, and we thought we'd show you just a brief snippet of it, not the whole thing. But Jessica, I wanted to invite you to say a few words if you wanted to tee it up while we're working at bringing up the video.
There's a correlation between healthy eating and academic achievement.
They definitely come through with that here at school. It makes you feel better when you eat good foods.
We keep raising the bar. It's a win-win situation.
As a registered dietitian, I've always promoted healthier meals, whole grains and fresh fruits on the line every day. So the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act for me just made sense, and it was the right thing to do for our school children.
We've tripled the amount of produce, and we're also increasing the amount of produce that we buy locally. So it is an absolute joy to sit with farmers and find out what they're growing.
Since introducing the new items from Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, our participation in our schools has actually increased. Our kids have really been responding to the variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, our salad bar, our new entree items and whole grains.
I usually eat the peaches or the small salad. I like how if you have the little crunchy pieces, I like the crunch to them.
All right.
Jessica and I did not know that we were going to be featured, and we were interviewed in the school cafeteria at AWL. So.
What an honor to be featured with Dallas, Orange County, and LA Unified comes on after that. It's a real privilege, and President Bolton and Superintendent Gardner and the University Board, thank you so much. I honestly, we couldn't be doing this kind of successful implementation without your support. The support that we've had these last 2 years. Oh, hey, now you can all hear me. These last 2 years has been phenomenal. Has really helped us be able to do the healthy things we're doing for our kids. And if you kind of remember last year's whole hysteria over school lunches, and everywhere around the country was a little bit panicked and a little bit worried about, serving healthier lunches. And what we showed is that it's really possible, and it can be done. And it can be done very successfully. And in fact, the Robert Johnson Wood Foundation just came out with a report saying that actually across the country, more kids now are actually accepting these healthy lunches. And we kind of trailblazed that for them. Our participation actually increased in our elementary schools with these new regulations. Our high schools struggled a little bit in the first year, but this second year they've popped back up again. So now we have higher participation than we've ever had with these new regulations that supposedly are so difficult to implement, that we've done so well. But that's because of the support that I've had from this board, from my superintendent, and from the administration and the school buildings, the principals themselves, who've been very supportive of the new regulations. So thank you.
I think Vice President Nelms has a comment to make.
Yeah, I wanted to say your reputation precedes you, and I want your autograph before you leave. But I was at the CUBE conference in Chicago, and a guy came up to me and recognized that I was from Cincinnati, and he raved about modeling this program. I can't recall his name. He gave me his card. So I just want to say, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because you've made a nationwide impression.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm so impressed with the changes in the food in the schools. I particularly spent time with a couple of our elementary schools before the end of the last school year, and talked to the young kids in the lunchroom, and I asked them what they liked about the food, and they loved the salad bar. This was at Rothenberg. They loved the salad bar. They loved the fresh fruit of the day and that. And being the parent of a high schooler, they have noticed. And I can remember when you guys would come to a couple of our cows and share the posters or whatever were going up, you know, they would come home and tell me that they noticed that those things in the themes that were circled around what you were serving at that time. So whatever you're doing, keep up the great, fantastic
The high
work.
schoolers is kind of hard because when you try to try, you know, these rules, I keep on saying these rules are really for the class of 2024.
No, right.
Because when we graduate these kids who started with it in kindergarten, we're going to be changing a whole dynamic of eaters.
Yeah.
And healthy kids and healthy communities. It's just going to be a completely different arena.
Yeah, and all jokes aside, really, in the majority of our most inner city schools, especially our elementary schools, sometimes these foods are not being served in the homes of our students. And so when they come to school and are able to learn and eat these fresh fruits and vegetables, it's making a tremendous difference, you know, for their lifestyle choices as they grow. So that class of 2024 will absolutely have that ingrained in them. So I think it is extremely important to ensure healthy lunches.
Thank you.
And breakfast.
Yes, and breakfast.
And breakfast, which is very
important. We missed that
important
part of the video. Actually talks about how our breakfast participation is one of the highest in the countries. And even when we benchmark ourselves against the Council of Great City Schools, our high school breakfast participation is one of the top 3 in the Council of Great City Schools.
I bet. Thank you.
Member Coons.
This might sound sacrilegious as an educator, but I think eating healthy is more important than learning the ABCs. I mean, for a person's life, taking care of your body, it ensures longevity. And, you know, as a school district, it just makes me proud to know that we're drastically affecting these people's lives. We know how, you know, how deadly obesity can be and how important it is as a nationwide push. And we're a part of it, and we're leading in that area. So, you know, big kudos to you and everyone else that works with you to make this happen.
Thank you. I have a great team.
I think second to all of that, as well as thanking the superintendent too. I know she's, whenever been asked by the city leaders to help with the fight regarding food deserts, especially as it pertains to our neighborhoods in the city, where indeed, as Member Copeland-Dansby mentioned, there are some places where it's just even difficult to buy the kinds of things that we're serving. So appreciate her participating in that and making sure everybody in the community knows that's where the schools stand on that issue. So appreciate that. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. You both look real good, too.
Well, thank you. We weren't sure. You never know what 15 seconds they're going to use.
Yeah, never know. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the revised recommendations of the superintendent? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. Is there any discussion, any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call. Mrs. Witt, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates. Mrs. Copeland-Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye, but no for page 1 and item C.
And President Bolton.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the revised report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. Are there any questions regarding the treasurer's revised report?
I have one. You know what, I had that, my question was answered, so relay that.
All right.
I have a couple questions too.
Member Hoffman?
Yep, I hadn't heard about number 5, the agreement with Hanover Research, and so just didn't know what that was. So before approving, wanted to know what that agreement is for. What research is this?
Yeah, page 1. So you're looking for what it is. Thank you.
It has come out of our research and evaluation department. It's for 12 months. And it says the project production services are available to CPS administrators for whatever. It doesn't indicate what research projects. It looks like it's open-ended. It's actually to do research. You know, since we don't have a R&D department anymore, this is a contract service with the work and the projects to be determined. And this would be for the upcoming school year, starting July of 14 through next June.
Okay, so yeah, so I think, so I'd seen that, you know, the approval form, and I think there just wasn't any clarity there of what we were using this money for, so I'm all about the research. Lord knows I love myself some data. So I think maybe if we could have updates to the board on what projects this is going to be used for, yeah, so that we can stay apprised about how that money is being used.
Yes.
Great. And then one other question. Sure. There was one, number 8 on the original treasurer's report, agreement with Martha B. Geller for college planning consultant. Am I right that this is just for Walnut Hills? Okay. All about giving Walnut Hills, making sure that they have college planning going on there. I think this is a question we've brought up in student achievement already around issues of equity and making sure kids at all of our high schools have an opportunity to know about college, be planning for college. So while I would obviously approve this for Walnut, I want to make sure that we are also thinking about how to equitably distribute funds so that all of our kids have these opportunities.
I just want to comment on that. I know that Mrs. Sellers mentioned this, but there are other programs in other schools, the Leadership Scholars, the program at Aiken. This is the way that Walnut, Mrs. Geller has worked for Walnut for, she probably helped you, Alex. I know she helped my kids. So this is an ongoing program, but there are programs that are other high schools that are either in development or are working in a way that's very particular to the kind of students and the students' needs at those high schools. So,
Leadership Scholars is wonderful, but my understanding is they're currently in the schools they're in are only working with our younger students. Yeah. And so, again, I would approve this. I think, though, that we do need to make sure that across all of our schools, our kids are getting this kind of information.
Yeah, I absolutely, of course, support every child, every student, having ACT prep. I know that's one of the things we've been talking about, as well as college and career planning. This is one issue that's particular to Walnut Hills. And if you'll notice that the funding comes out of the general fund for that particular high school. If we wanted to use a model, this is a fantastic model to use. I think it's also very challenging to duplicate. I mean, this woman is a part of the counseling office, and provides a service that is just remarkable. So I don't know that it's fitting every place.
Right.
But I think, it's worth the discussion as to how this school is able to continue with something like this and implement something similar in other places.
So maybe it sounds like the assignment is that we hear about what is happening at each of our schools. So if we can make that be an assignment and college access.
And when we get to assignment, I think you'll have full board support about reviewing.
And actually, you'll see at the August 11th board meeting, 7 high schools, we will be hiring the CYC individuals who do the college support in those 7 schools. It's just Mrs. Gellers went through a week ahead of time. So we do have other services, and I'll point those out at the August 11th board meeting.
Yeah, and I just think it's fair to mention that this is something that's been ingrained in that school culture for a very, very long time. I don't think it's an oversight for other schools. And I will absolutely support an assignment to just kind of catch us up on what all the high schools,
other schools are doing.
And I'm interested to hear about CYC.
Since, yes, CYC has, like I said, 7 schools where they're in.
Hold that for assignment, and let's make that assignment. I have a question And it's been explained to me, but I think it would be good to explain and dive a little bit deeper into number 6, which is the agreement to take notice for high school websites. We've had some preliminary information about this, and I know this is part of the My Tomorrow effort, as well as and kind of the whole high school initiative piece. So if somebody's here, Superintendent, that could.
Jen, would you be able to give any additional details, since Laura is not here tonight? But I understand we do want to update and improve our websites, and that's what this is really for. They are somewhat dated, and we're trying to make them interactive.
Oh, Susan.
Good evening. This is part of the initial redo of the district website, which was done in the Drupal content management system. It had been planned to eventually redo all of the school sites into this new content management system. What this one will do is bring all of the high school websites into this content management system. It'll also be responsive design, so it'll be set up to take care of any communication and marketing needs for the My Tomorrow initiative and into the future.
Is it good? Mm-hmm. Great. I know we had a preview of it, and we're excited about it some months ago, and now we're putting the money where the mouth is, I guess, on this one. Great. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments regarding the treasurer's report?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Number 11 on the revised report. I think it's absolutely awesome that we are entering into an agreement with SORTA to provide no fare drop to our kids. Is that what that's referring to there?
Mm-mm.
I believe it's the entire contract, which includes the no fare drop at 7.7 million. That would be the entire cost.
That's a substantial dollar amount, $7.7 million. So I'm looking forward to increased participation on a daily basis from all of our students, because there are no barriers other than getting up and getting on the bus. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that, and I'm excited to inform the community about that.
Ditto. Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms. President Bolton.
Aye. I don't know if we have any inquiries or updates. Mr. Coons.
I have an inquiry. I'm wondering if we could look into the feasibility of getting a water cooler in the board office. The audience has probably noticed we go through a lot of Ice Mountain bottles up here at these board meetings, and it happens in our meetings in the board room. And Board Member Hoffman and I have been adamantly bringing our reusable water bottles to every meeting. And I think that as we look to go green and continue to go green, it's not just about recycling bottles. The 3 R's of sustainability are reduce, reuse, recycle, and a great way to reduce waste would be to have these water coolers, which we could potentially purchase. So if we could look into our board funds, and hopefully other people in the building will catch on to the trend we're starting if they haven't already started it themselves.
We're going to have to use the superintendent's funds for the water cooler, which is fine too. And there was a Kismet kind of thing that happened. Maybe you were there when this was raised, and maybe you could share this.
So of some of the incredible work that our food services team is doing, one of the things that they're doing in our schools, if you haven't seen these yet, instead of just a regular water fountain, there's now a place that students can place their water bottles and fill up their water bottles. And so we are going to see about what kind of funding we have to be able to have one of those in the central office as well, so that not just for board use, but so that we in the central office can be modeling green behavior for our students. So Brilliant. I think there's a lot of different things we can look into to make that happen.
Okay.
Any other updates or inquiries? All right, we have assignments. Do you want to get started, Mrs. Hoffman?
Clearly, since I've been accumulating them. Thank you. Yes, so assignments for doing some research nationwide on what other districts are doing around alcohol waivers. And the other one, some sort of comprehensive list for all of our high schools in terms of what college preparedness and access guidance we're providing.
Could I just add planning to that, the access and the guidance, the whole planning piece?
Well, I think it's important that we're talking about, standardized testing preparation as well as college and career planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And access, that includes access. So I think my part of this, assignment, let's have an update as to what already exists. And then what incorporates some of what those plans are that superintendent just mentioned a few minutes ago. So then we know where the gaps are and can attack it.
Absolutely.
Good. Other assignments? Mr. Nelms, who had to leave, did want to assign a short presentation regarding the crossing guards. And
I will have to call the city of Cincinnati and see if I could get that person and then have that individual invite some crossing
guards. Would like
guards.
to see that, so that would be great. And I know that part of that is, I know we review periodically the location and of those crossing guards as our effort to do safety work and what have you.
Why don't we incorporate that in the meeting with Councilman Sittenfeld's committee?
I think we talked about that there already, did we not? At ACES, didn't we talk about the crossing guard and the contract and?
We did.
But this is a little different.
We can do it then. I think it makes as much sense.
It's a full board's invited.
I'm not opposed to it. I just don't want a repeat of the same information that we have in print,
Yeah.
One thing that would be good, though, I just recently learned that they've applied for new monies and the walking school bus and that kind of thing. Maybe we could talk about some new initiatives and how we're moving forward with that contract. That's a pretty expensive contract. I don't want to hear, this is just me speaking, but I don't want to hear every location. We have that in print.
No, I don't think they would read all of it, but I do think it's important to know that due diligence is that both we and the city review the locations of those. And, let's just give it to the administration to figure out what we may not yet know. And we'll talk to Mr. Nelms as to what more he wanted.
So did you want this at a board meeting presentation or the joint city?
He put Cal by this.
At a Cal, okay, all right.
And maybe that can also roll into, what that means for safety, because we continue to talk about safety.
Yeah.
Let's make it a meaningful conversation rather than an overview of a program.
Gotcha.
And if I know Mr. Nelms, I'm sure he would like acknowledgement to be a big part of what we do. I'm sure that's, as he's brought, our custodial staff in front of us before, he loves to acknowledge all the people that we don't always see that make things work. So
that's fair.
Not to speak for him necessarily, but I think that's probably.
We'll look further into that, and if you'll look into it a little bit, and there might be an opportunity as well for the retreat piece, just as another snippet of information. And then Mr. Nelms is taking on an assignment, and that is that the next meeting he will be presenting some information regarding the Brothers Keeper initiative in DC that he attended with the Great City Schools, and also an update from the CUBE conference that he went to in Chicago. So he has some things he'd like to share. So he said give him an assignment. So we just did. Any other assignments? Any other business to be dealt with this evening? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.